It's extra medium.
It's like a large.
I'm getting bigger. It's good. It's perfect.
So I did hoodies for the coaches on the staff, right? So I was like, all right, based on what these guys are ordering, like they said a large. So like they're all, to me, the other coaches, they're small. Like I'm like, give me a 2X. Like, although like I really need to work on that.
Fitting into a.
I just need to work on my
X?
fitness in general. Like it's tough, and I think this is actually a perfect tee up for this conversation. And I'm Lawrence,
and I'm Jeremy,
and this is Aftercare, and this is going to be way different than anything that we've ever done. But I think it's actually good.
We got it.
Anyways, I'm coming from like, dude, the way who I was, like, I show up here, I just don't care anymore, right? Like
You're good. You're relaxed. You're set.
I'm a dad. I have 4 kids. I'm going through. I'm married. Like I'm just in the process of living life. Like I'm just trying to do for my kids at this point.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for me sometimes? That means sometimes I don't have time to go get a haircut, which is why you guys see me like this most of the time, because I just don't have time. My kids are playing sports. I have all this stuff, right, going on. My haircut is usually like the last on the list, right? It's driving me nuts, to be honest. The other thing that also gets put by the wayside is like my own level of fitness, which is really hard, right? Because, you know, I coach sports. My kids play sports. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school, right? Like my whole life, all I did was play sports at a high level. I was in very good shape. And so now I don't care, because I certainly care. Just the time of it's not there.
What it takes,
Yes. So I'm enjoying my 2X hoodie. It's comfortable. But the other coaches, I'm like, all right, you guys are all in shape. They're about, like, here, a large should work.
Hey.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think that's a good conversation to have, because we're gonna talk about dating going into 2025. Like, what is the landscape of dating now? I've been out of this game for a long time, but I have a feeling what it's like out there. But what is it like?
Oh, it's so different. It feels like it's so different. So this is kind of what I wanted to get the conversation. Have you ever been through a breakup, a divorce, a split, or you ever had your heart broken and you're in this place where you're like, I don't even know how to make a decision anymore. But you still want a relationship, you still want a companionship, you still want to get out there and have a family and all that. How do you get out there, be confident, know what you want, know that what you want is actually good and how do you figure that out without breaking somebody else's heart too in the process? I'm figuring it out, I think. But it all starts with you. I say that a lot. It all starts with you. If you know what you want, you know who you are, and you're not faking in order to get somebody like you, then ideally you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know about like the Enneagram, like personality test or anything out there, and I'm not super stuck on it, but I'm a 5, what is called a thinker investigator. So
so you're snooping. You want like
so I want details, like, but I'm asking other people, like, so this is how I do, like with video game shopping, with car shopping, with whatever thing I'm buying, I'm reading the reviews.
Yeah.
Okay, this person doesn't like the tires, or this person doesn't like this thing. So I go I go to you a couple times too. What do I do, Lawrence? What do you think? What do you like? What do you think? What's going on here? And it affects my overall opinion of something.
Yeah.
Right? Which is smart in some situations. Hey, you went to this restaurant. I'm going to ask you what you thought of it instead of me just going straight there. So I'm not gonna waste money on some pizza that you don't like.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go drive across town if I don't know where it is. I'm gonna ask all these things.
Okay.
But then it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm more worried about what you think and like and want to eat than what I actually want to eat, or what I'm actually into, what I actually believe or feel are solid values in my life too.
Yeah.
And so the issue with that, with dating, is, and this happened with in my marriage too, is like I was more worried about what she thought about me than what I thought about myself.
Yeah.
And she was the same way. She was more worried about what I thought about her than what she thought about herself. And then over time, you eventually are just going to become yourself anyways. Like you can only fake it for so long.
Absolutely.
Even if you're unintentionally faking it, you're eventually gonna relax and get into your XXL shirt and be set and, oh, this is who you are when you're relaxed.
Yeah.
And so dating for me, which has been tough, is how do I be relaxed, be myself, be true to who I know I am, true to who God knows me to be, and walk in that. And if somebody doesn't like that, just be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And not let that affect me.
So there's a whole lot there. So I'm going to take a step back. So the investigative side, I think that's like an important place to start, right? So what do you think is the best way for you on this side, not only of like your walk, on the other side of divorce, on this side of recovery? What does the investigation look like?
Well, I gotta investigate myself. I gotta investigate what I believe I need, what I believe I want. What are my true authentic values that are never gonna change in me? What does my foundation look like? I figured this out, or learned this myself with God's help, of course. But it's like you're building a house, and your foundation is always going to be the same. It's never going to change. It's never going to get old and fat or tired or change its hairstyle. Your foundation is going to be the same forever. So you need to find someone else who has a very similar, if not very same foundation as what you have.
Yeah.
Because as you grow, you're going to change your house. You're going to get new furniture. You're going to paint the walls differently. You're going to have extensions and all this stuff. But as those things break and build and break and build, your foundation's going to stay the same. So you need to find somebody who has that same foundation as you, because life is going to change. You're going to change. Your opinions on who you're going to vote for this year is going to change.
So what's the foundation?
My foundation is Jesus. Okay. Is what he believes in and what he's calling.
So number one trait that we're putting on the list if we're dating is she's got to have a foundation that matches mine. Right.
And not even, and I heard this a while ago, it's not even just that she loves Jesus, but that she loves him in the same way that I do. Because so many Christians will do that in different ways. Like, I love being around kids and worshiping Jesus through a family. Whereas I know some people who can't have kids and who worship Jesus through a completely different way and just can't even be around children. But they're called to elderly, you know? And there's nothing wrong with either one of those. But if we try to run a ministry together, run our ministry, our family ministry together, it's not going to line up. Okay. Not that neither one of us loves Jesus less or more. We just have a different blend together.
So you first start with, yourself, right? My foundation is solid. This is who I am. I understand myself. Then you go to what is her foundation? Who is she at the core of who she is?
Yeah.
And then I would assume part of that is understanding what your non-negotiables are for the person that you're looking for.
Yeah. Because obviously both of you are going to have dreams. You're going to have things that you want. And like that was what tore our marriage apart, is that I wanted a family and she didn't want a family anymore. But for me, it was it wasn't just kids, it was I'm not worthy if I don't have kids. So that was part of my foundation that was chipped. Like, hey, this needs to be here, otherwise something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so that's where my foundation wasn't solid. Like, that's where it broke me, because kids and a family was more important than Jesus. Whereas like raising family is that stuff that you put on top of your foundation. And so if something can be taken away out of your life and then you aren't the child of God that you are called to be anymore, then maybe your view of being a child of God is wrong, is faulty somehow. And I'm doing like mental gymnastics on how to word all of this, but does any of that make sense?
Yeah. I'm going on the ride with you here.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the goal of dating in 2025 for you?
It's not so clear right now. It's not so exact right now. I'm still trying to find my calling, my purpose, what God has for me in this life. Like, I know what He has for me in the next life, but what exactly He has me doing here now, I'm not really sure. I'm figuring it out. Okay. And what that is, and so this is where it gets into the dating part, because I believe like I'm supposed to be called to something, and the dating part is who's going to be there cheering me on for that. Like, if somebody's there, somebody beside me who agrees with that, whatever that purpose God has for me, and comes along and is a helper in that, now that opens up the question, well, does God want you here full time? Let's find out. Analogy I use with a lot of guys that have gotten divorced or gotten out, and they're just like, I just want to find someone, I just want companionship, I just want to be with somebody, I'm lonely. I make the football analogy. It's like, okay, if you're a football player, it's nice to have a cheerleader. It's nice to have a cheerleader squad cheering you on and saying, go for it, right? But if you don't like football, if you're just playing football and you hate football, then the cheerleaders are eventually going to be sick of you, right? But now if you're there, if you're just playing football because you love football and that's what you want to do, then it really doesn't matter if a cheerleader's there or not. Yeah. You're going to play football. And a cheerleader is going to want to cheer for somebody who just loves the game. Yeah. And so for me, I'm in this place where I'm like, okay, God, what's the game you've called me to? What is my purpose? Because obviously it's not to get validation from a cheerleader or from a helper. Like, I don't need a partner if I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a couple things I would say. 'Cause you said a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the goal of dating is for a Christian? Not your goal, but just what is the goal of dating for the Christian
For a
person?
Christian? This one's hard to not just answer like generic Christian, to better the kingdom, or I mean, yes, bring glory to God somehow. But what is the goal for the modern day Christian in dating? I don't know.
Because I think that there's an answer to that question. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's to get married. I think the goal for a Christian.
I'm overthinking this question way too deep. I'm like playing a different sport. Like, yes.
Yeah. Like,
well, to date,
it's not for sport, right? Because I think the world can try to kind of treat dating like sport.
Yeah.
Like, how many girls can I take on a date this week?
Yeah.
Right. And I think for the Christian male, like the goal of dating is finding a wife, and for the Christian woman, the goal of dating is to find a husband.
That answer was just too close to my face.
Yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, you're friends to date and date to marry and marry to. Okay.
Yeah. And so then the question I would ask is, are you ready to get married? Right?
Mm.
And if the answer to that question is no, then you probably shouldn't be dating.
Should be dating, yeah.
Right? Because that, I mean, 1 + 1 makes a baby, right? So if you're going to be dating, the goal should be, I'm looking for a wife, right? Or if you're a lady, I'm looking for a husband.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're a lady, some people might push back at this. I would say you probably shouldn't be looking, because it's just not. It's not what the scripture says. It says, he finds a wife.
Yep. I've noticed that.
But even as a male, I don't think that you should just be like out, so like clearly like searching. I think one of the things that you mentioned that I think is really important is you should be walking in purpose, and as you're walking in purpose, living up to what God is calling you to do in this season, wherever He has you, I think He will. The opportunity will be presented where you will find your wife, right? And then you date, and I'm sure probably pretty early on in that process, if you're truly seeking God and seeking after the kingdom, then you'll know, like, oh, this is my wife.
Yeah.
Even though she's not yet.
Yeah.
But you'll know pretty early on in that process. I think that's the tough part for dating as like a Christian in this world is like we should date the way the rest of the world dates.
Yeah.
And we should have like a clear outline of like, okay, this is where I believe God has me headed right now. And if this is where God has me, then the person who I'm supposed to be with should be flowing in this direction. And I believe that God wouldn't even present that person if they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is where I think dating gets way more difficult, right? Is I met my wife in 2000. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Just like robot voice.
2010. I was like 20. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And so, and we've had different ups and downs of our relationship, right? So there was, we didn't get married right away. I wasn't walking with God for a long time, so things kind of have been rocky, and they've gone in different directions, right? So the last time I've dated wasn't that far removed. But it's still a different landscape, right? Like we're in the social media age. There's, I don't know, is Tinder still a thing?
Yeah. They're all out there.
But Instagram and social media being so important, like how do you navigate dating in a world where like most people meet on the internet now? Like I believe the last time I looked at some of those stats, like they've kind of flipped. So, like most people met in person. Like it was somebody either that you worked with, you went to church with, they go to the same places that you go to.
Yeah.
And now most people, they're the person that they meet, they've met them online. So how do you?
I think it's still possible. It's still possible to meet somebody online and it be something special, something important, or God can make that work. He can make anything work, right? But I think what you need to worry about is where your heart is at. If you're like, I'm getting Instagram so that I can find my wife, okay, something's wrong there. I think your heart's in the wrong place. But we can do that too. We can do that. I'm going to go to church to find my wife. I'm going to go to the gym to find my wife or whatever. And then you lose focus. Like, okay, I'm not really at the gym to work out. I'm at the gym to find somebody. And now you're wasting time and and that's an issue too, because let's say you go to church. Say you go to church. You're there to find someone, just to find someone. You're not even getting closer to God. You're just looking for a spouse. And you do find someone who's also only there to find a spouse. There you go. You guys found each other at church. Both of you are now going to church, not looking for God, faking it for something else. What else are you faking to find happiness? What else is going on? Even like at the gym too. If you go try to like hit on someone or try to talk to someone who's there focused and working out, they're gonna be pissed off. Like, don't mess with me. I'm working out right now. Don't ruin my day. Which every guy who talks to every girl at the gym right now, like that's what's going on.
But
the same way, I don't want to do that either.
Not to cut you off, but I've seen these videos of women that are like setting dudes up at the gym.
Yeah.
Like they have like a camera in the corner and it's like hidden. And then like the guy, like they're like clearly, trying to get attention. And then a guy says something and then they just like rag on the guy. Like they said, like,
and that's another thing too. Yep. That's another thing, trying to get attention on Instagram, trying to get attention from somebody else, trying to get external validation from somebody else.
Yeah.
To make yourself feel better. Like, okay, let's turn that back on us for dating. Like, are we looking for someone else to just validate our existence? I'm like, ugh. Well, now I don't want to date at all. Like, what's going on with me? And this is the dilemma. This is what I'm stuck in right now, is because I'm doing that. I'm purposely not purposely meeting people and telling them this. I'm just like, I don't want to date anybody right now. I said this in my men's group on Wednesday, but I was like, dating after divorce right now feels like I went skydiving and my ex-wife packed my parachute and it didn't deploy. I crashed. And now I have to go skydiving. For some reason, I have to go skydiving again, and I have to find somebody else that I can trust to, like, really find somebody to trust to pack my backpack, pack my parachute. And what's even more heartbreaking is that I packed my ex-wife's parachute too, and she crashed. And I don't trust myself to pack another person's backpack, another person's parachute for their skydiving trip too. So when I'm meeting these females that we're flirting or connecting or getting close to, I almost get triggered to a point where like, oh crap, I don't want to unintentionally hurt you because I don't have my stuff figured out. And that's been the hard part, because in another way is there, because also me taking care of myself, me growing and being mature and setting clear boundaries and being honest with a female does not happen in the world today. Like, girls and women are not getting this from the typical guys on Hinge or Tinder or whatever. So for me to do that is very attractive. And I'm like, but I said no. So it's like, no, something's wrong with me. I can't date you. I don't want to date you right now. I can't. But I do want to be married. But I do want to have this. So it's this weird.
So,
it's confusing.
Are you ready to date in 2025?
No. Yes. No. Yeah. No. I'm not ready to date. And just by saying that, I can feel God's going to be like, now you're ready. Like, he's going to just drop somebody. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I guess, if that's what you want. Because even though all that's going on in my head, as far as like what I'm afraid of and what I am afraid of what I'll do or afraid of what someone else will do, it is still on my heart. It's still on my heart to be married and have kids and have family and be a husband and be a dad and be called into that, you know? Have that be one of my ministries, like my first ministry.
I think that kind of brings it back to like where I'm at, right? Is like in 2025, in a relationship, like I think like I have to get back to dating my wife.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Yep. Yes, you do.
Yeah, I mean, because I think pursuit is still necessary, and you should never stop pursuing the person that you're with. And you kind of have to like, you learn how to like you can't let the schedule and the sports and the concerts and everything else get in the way of you connecting with the person that you're with, because while the kids are a really amazing project right now, I think left unattended, we could finish that project and be like, well, what do we do now? And I don't really know you, and you don't really know me, and how do we connect moving forward? And so like that's something to be worried about. And like I need to give my barber a call and just
Start taking care of you.
but if my barber would answer the phone, just saying.
So did your barber watch the show?
It's like the biggest problem I run into. It's not even just the schedule. It's that when I have the free time and I call my barber, I don't get a response. And like looking for like you want to talk about dating in 2025, trying to find a new barber in 2025, I'm not trying to do it. It's like
it's sacrifice. It's like give and take. Like, hey, you're worth the time. You're worth waiting for.
Yes.
But also like, you gotta get a haircut.
Yeah.
You can't just wait forever. You can't just like do nothing. And
I've tried going other places, and then you just be like, nope, this is not.
It's not right. It's not right. I don't know.
I'm cheating on my barber. He's gonna know.
He's gonna know.
I went somewhere else.
Your hair's not growing. Been 6 months. Your hair's not changed at all.
But realistically, like, yeah, that's where I'm at with dating in 2025. It's like, man, I got to start dating my wife again.
Yeah.
Because the schedule is just going to get busier.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for her to know that she's loved and I'm still pursuing her. And and I think it helps the relationship stay vibrant and new and exciting. Like it can get really stagnant.
Yeah, and you talk about like focusing on the kids too much, focusing on the sports and all that, but even like focusing on your kids 100% does a disservice to them too, because now they haven't seen what it looks like for dad to take out mom and all that, and how a man treats a woman and all that, because now they're the number one priority in your life. And like, so then when they get into dating, it's going to be like, well, dad gave me 100% attention all the time, and that's what I'm supposed to get from you now. And like, oh, oops, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I don't know, if we were to put a bow on the whole conversation, what do you think the most important thing anyone could take from this conversation is?
No one is ever going to love you better or more than Jesus does. And so if you go looking for that in someone else, no matter who it is, parents, kids, your spouse, they're going to fail. They're going to fail, and then you're going to build up resentment because you were looking for perfect love in imperfect people. And that's just a recipe for disaster. It's not a pretty bow. It's not a pretty bow.
Yeah, I mean, the person that God gives you is not the source of everything that you need in life. They are a resource that God gives you. And if you're looking for them to be the source of your happiness, the source of your joy, you are going to be very miserably let down.
Yeah.
Because they're not.
Yeah.
But they are a resource, and they should be a resource. But they are not the source. And just it's important to keep in mind who the source is. And if you're focused on the source, one, if you're dating, you'll find the person that God either wants you to be with, or you may not. Maybe you're like Paul and you're gifted with singleness. Or maybe you're like Peter and you're going to be married and travel and be on mission with your partner. But as long as you're focused on God, you'll figure that out along the way. I think.
Definitely. That was a good one.
Yeah, different,
authentic, really what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. They were both going through similar lessons, different situations.
Yeah. And hopefully next time y'all see me, I'll have a haircut.
Hey.
But I'm Lawrence.
And I'm Jeremy.
Peace. This is Aftercare.
Latest.